Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be talking about the big topic that is TMR runes. We're going to talk about how it works, how it functions, my understanding of the system, so that you don't have to watch, 20 different videos, kind of like I did. You don't have to read a whole bunch of reports on how the system actually works. So we're going to give you the quick and dirty. Let's go ahead and dig in. All right, everybody, so there is a lot going on with TMR runes. So we're going to start from the very beginning. Essentially, we all know that you can place 6 runes on the TMR runes, right? That's pretty standard, pretty par for the course. So what you're going to see here is 3 runes on the left side, 3 runes on the right side. Now, the 3 runes on the left side are defensive in nature, and the 3 runes on the right side are offensive in nature. It will always be that way. That is just the way it is created. Now, you actually get a set bonus on your defensive runes and your offensive runes. So every defensive rune can be crafted with a variety of styles, and every offensive rune can be crafted in a variety of styles. And if you craft 3 of the same style, you will get a buff. So taking a look at the materia screen here, again, this is all on WoTV calc, and I would encourage all of you guys to go and look at this and actually engage in the TMR augmentation system, kind of mess around with it to get an understanding. But you can see that the WoTV calc basically breaks it down into 2 buffs, left and right, or defensive and offensive. So you can see you can craft HP defensive runes, TP defensive runes, defensive runes, spirit, luck, evade, and critical evade. You can also see that on the right side, you can craft offensive runes. That's going to be AP, attack, magic, dexterity, accuracy, critical rate, and agility. You can also see the set bonuses for these runes. So if I had 3 HP runes on my left side, I would get HP 5% for self and increase all elemental resistance 5% for self. If I had 3 AP runes on the right side, I would have increase AP 10% for self, decrease AP consumption 10% for self. For kind of the ease of this video, we're going to call this the set bonus. The set bonus, as we're going to call it, is completely separate of everything else. For example, it will stack with any other stat in your build. You don't have to worry about that. The set bonus is kind of like its own unique creature. Its bonuses will always apply. That's not going to be the case when we talk about passives. Now, going to take a look, now that we've talked about set bonuses, let's go take a look at, for example, this equipment build right here of Inga's staff. You can see here that I put on 3 HP runes. You can ignore the passives and any other stats here. And you can see that my group effect on this TMR rune is going to be increase HP 5%, increase all elemental resistances 5%. Similarly, on the right side, I have 3 AP runes, and you can see it's going to increase AP 10% and decreases AP consumption 10 as well. Now, you can literally craft any rune you want. When you get all of the rune materials, you can choose what version of the rune you craft. So you don't have to, for example, farm a separate rune for AP runes. You don't have to farm a separate rune for MP runes. Very straightforward. You just craft the version that you want. Everybody should very easily be able to control what their set bonus is going to be for their TMR runes. Now, you see there's a couple other things here that are going on. We also have what are called substats, and we also have passives. It's going to be a little bit better for your understanding to switch to the actual materia builder to talk about these. So let's say you are building a TMR rune, right? And you're looking at what you want to craft. Since this is going to be a I version, this will be a defensive rune. So of course, first you have to decide what type of defensive rune you want to craft. Let's choose defense. You can see here that maxed out, you are level 20. It's going to give 4 defense. Then you're going to see substats right here. Substats really look like they are overwhelming. They really are kind of more complicated than they look, or less complicated than they look like. Basically, it's a set of stats that is going to be on your rune, and you basically can roll low or roll high on them, and you can re-roll them for guild. So there is a minimum, there is a maximum value you can get. For example, at max level, if you maybe roll low on HP, you won't be able to hit capped HP. This is very, you spend 100,000 gil, I believe it is, to re-roll your substats. You don't need to spend a lot of time focusing on those. That's going to be like min-maxing right now. It's easy to fix and adjust. Your primary focus is actually going to be on what we call passives. Now, every time you craft a rune, that rune is going to have a passive associated with it. So let's say you are crafting this defensive rune, and it looks like we actually get an evasion passive right here, and we get evasion 2. Okay, what does that mean? What can you do with evasion 2? Is that a good roll? Well, the first thing you know about need to know about passives, very similar to substats, is that passives have different qualities as well. So you have the standard evasion rate right here, 2 to 3. You have the medium evasion rate, 3 to 5, and you have the medium evasion rate, 4 to 7. So if you wanted to max out your TMR rune for evasion, it's very important that on your TMR skill passive, you do have evasion rate 4 in the beginning so that it does cap out at evasion rate 7. This is going to be where most of your work is probably done, is you are going to be dismantling the rune, recrafting the rune, dismantling the rune, recrafting the rune, trying to get this optimal passive effect. Sorry, my cat just hit my camera here. But the other thing to also be aware of here is that runes, depending on their rarity, have different values. So if you are going for a maximum evasion build, you're going to have to use the UR runes because you cannot get the UR passives on the MR stones or below. What you can do is you can transfer passives, and that begins a process to get double passives on your TMR rune. So let's say I rolled an evasion 4, okay? And this is a passive that I want to have, but let's add another passive on here. What would be a good one? Let's say you want critical evasion as well, right? And you rolled critical evasion 5 on another materia. What you can actually do is, at the cost of hammers, you can transfer that passive to another TMR rune. So if I rolled a red materia with evasion 4 on it, and then I rolled another red materia with critical evasion 5, I could transfer the critical evasion 5 to my red evasion materia to have both passive abilities on it, and then I could max them out. You can see how this could be very complicated, very fast. Most of the time though, you're not going to be holding a lot of red runes. So what do you do if in your process, let's say you're looking for evasion 4, let's say you actually re-roll and you get something you need like dark resistance max, right? Well, what you can actually do is, at the cost of hammers, again, you can transfer this dark resistance to a low level rune. That would be like a green rune. And then you can break down your red materia, recraft your red materia for a new ability, new passive ability, and then you can transfer that dark resistance back. This is kind of how all of the kind of passive manipulations are going to be going. This is how most of the time you're going to get your ideal passives. Now, one other thing to understand about passives is that passives occupy the same slot, so to say, as box stats. So let's assume that you are running Inga staff here. And Inga's staff has magic attack 10, spirit penetration 15 for effects. And we all know in other box stats, you couldn't run 2 pieces of gear with magic attack up, right? You can't run, for example, the spirit penetration from Inga's staff. You couldn't run the spectacles with it and expect the spirit penetration to stack because they're the same stat in the box stat. Very similarly, you can see here in my offensive runes on this Inga's staff, I have plus 10 magic attack and I have plus 10 spirit penetration in my passives. Neither of these are going to stack or build into your build because they occupy the same slots as the equipment boxes. So because you already have magic attack and spirit penetration in your effects, these passives will not stack. However, looking down here at group effects, there is a group effect that maybe adds spirit penetration or magic attack or magic. This will stack. Remember, the group effects are completely separate. The passives are not separate. The passives are part of the equipment box stats. So a lot of this, and oh my gosh, my cat keeps nudging my camera right now. All of this kind of leads to the complication basically of kind of building and maximizing your TMR augmentation. And this is kind of the very surface level of TMR augmentation. I promised you guys I would keep this video short. We're coming in at about 12 minutes now. I'll definitely be talking more about this over the coming weeks. I don't have a full grasp myself of this system, even though I've researched it quite a bit. But I hope for a lot of you, this really just I did something like this on stream and it really helped a lot of people because the TMR system is very intimidating. And this really made it easier for a lot of people. For the most part, people are just going to have to get their hands on the system and mess around with it. Basically, very much like Hiroki said, you can mess around with it in WoTV Calc, although WoTV Calc will not stop you from doing things like stacking spirit penetration that's useless or stacking magic attack that's useless. But for the most part, you'll get a really good understanding of it. I would also recommend watching PST's video. Queen Druid, if you're familiar with Queen, does have a document which I'll put in my description down below as well. And Cabbage did like a 12 video series which goes much more in depth than me. But my goal in this video is just to make it as least intimidating to you as possible and kind of grant you that entry level access into TMR Rune augmentation. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and we'll be doing a lot of videos on this in the near future, and have a great rest of your day.